Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dual Access Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Kriebel. Today's guest is Andrew Watson. When a global financial services firm hired him to take charge of a data project that had gone off track, he had an epiphany. In a few months, he delivered what a technical consultancy couldn't get done in a year. Why? Because he took the time to listen, understand why they wanted what they'd asked for, and question whether the most efficient way of achieving it. That's when he started his Tableau consulting business, and 10 years later, he's still going strong. Andrew, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
Tell me a bit about how you got started.
We got back prior to that story. So Tableau started. So I worked for a company now part of Expedia, it's homeaway.com. Joined them in their, I guess, very early years. I was one of the, I think I was employee 25 or something in the UK. And they brought Tableau in when it was very new. I think it was Tableau 5 or something like that. I was trying to remember what year it was, maybe 2008, 2009. Can't remember. It was a while ago. And that introduced me to Tableau and got me like having to use that software daily. And in those days, it was before, say, Tom set up the information lab. There was no training available in the UK. The company actually imported some trainers from the US to teach us how to do it. And then the forums were the place you would learn.
Yeah.
So the likes of names you're probably familiar with from the early days, like Jonathan Drummy and Joe Mako, and there's another guy from New Zealand whose name I forget now. Yeah. Who were all sort of the heavy players in the forums, and that was where you went to learn. And that's when Tableau was like started to go boom with its adoption by many organizations. So that got me into Tableau just at the right time. And from there, that got me hired by a top tier consulting firm. People from my background generally don't work for top tier consulting firms. And that got me into financial services, and hence the project you were talking about with BNP, because it got me the financial services experience. And that was my first sort of project on my own. It wasn't my first project. It's my first project under my own umbrella, rather than working either for a consulting firm, another consulting firm that I was just an employee of, or working for an employer as a client side.
Right. But then you then started, part of that epiphany was that you wanted to go out on your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a consultant, an employed consultant.
Right.
And financially it was okay. Couldn't complain. But at the time, I had my missus had a baby in her tummy that was ready to drop. Or maybe the baby just being born, I forget now. But there was a baby that was a huge player in life decisions. And there was talk of the consulting firm sending me away to France for 6 months.
Oh, geez.
And I couldn't do that. Not with the baby. That was a no. And just that risk being there, I had to try and sort of control that and make sure that I didn't get kicked away from home for an unlimited period. So this project at BNP landed at just the right time, and they brought me in to fix up their Tableau for the front office. Very small project to begin, accelerated very, 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 very quickly. So from a scope of this to a scope of how wide is this camera, that in a matter of months, and haven't really looked back since then.
Yeah. So you almost started your own business out of necessity more than anything else, or to avoid the other situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a sort of slightly different environment in those days as well. It was pre IR35 and Rishi Sunak decimating the sort of small consulting firm businesses. So there were so the sort of contract market, as as it's more commonly known, was sort of very, very active and very dynamic back then. And in the Tableau world, there was a lot of work available across many, many industries. So it was my first venture into self-employment and sort of delivering my own projects under my own umbrella. So luckily, I got a great sort of training with sort of Alex Partners, who were the consulting firm I worked for prior to going out on my own there. So very, very high caliber consultants work in that place, and the work they deliver is top class. And to work there, you have to constantly deliver top class work. So that bit had been sort of drilled into me, and I was very comfortable delivering projects under my own umbrella. And yeah, there's several projects, some with Tableau, some without Tableau at BNP, all in the data space. And then so that evolved into other investment banks and financial services orgs until Rishi Sunak killed the market with his IR35 changes, and yeah, that had a massive impact on me again.
Yeah. So that's why you're back to full-time work now, right? Or for another
Yeah.
company. You're no longer consulting on your own.
I'm in a sort of hybrid position as we speak. So I've been brought in to deliver a Tableau project into Barclays. So anyone can look at my LinkedIn profile so they can see where I work. So I have no
Yeah.
issues with naming employers or clients or whatever. It's all out there on LinkedIn anyway. So now I'd be a temporary employee while I'm working
Okay.
as a consultant, as I would if I was delivering any project. It's only the terms differ, and there's no opportunity, say, for example, to grow your own business here. I couldn't bring in other consultants should that demand be there under my umbrella. I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Right.
So apart from that, it's fairly similar.
Mhm.
So yes, so I'm not a perm. I'm a temporary employee.
Right. Okay. Slightly different than a consultant then. Yeah.
It,
So
it,
what are go ahead.
so it's still a consultant, just not employed by a consultancy, which I guess would call you a consultant, and not under my own consulting firm. But it's
Right.
my working practices as a consultant, which
Right.
it's weird to even have to have this conversation this way. But that's I don't want this call to be a slanging off Rishi Sunak and his IR35 legislation call. But it had a big impact on me.
Yeah.
In terms of working practices, I'm still a consultant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably pretty easy to understand why he did it because it probably benefits him and his buddies. So I'm sure that's the reason it's done. Uh,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
it.
we could talk about politics for a long time in the wonderful conservative government we have right now. Let's go back to you running your own business. What were the biggest benefits of you running your own business?
That's a great question. Brought brought freedom to some degree. You always are a slave to somebody in whatever you do.
Right.
Even if you're royalty, you're a slave to your subjects to a large degree. You can't do whatever you
Right.
want to do. So it gives you some freedom to some degree. You can pick and choose clients. Um, Not quite as easy as all that, obviously, but theoretically, uh, it did. Going in without being as a consultant, you're there to advise and give your advice. You can avoid some of the maybe the more political things that as an employee you
Right.
have to fortunately you have to get involved in the politics, especially
Play the game.
if your
Yeah.
bonus depends on it and your promotions depend on it. As a consultant, my focus could be away from politics and on delivering what is ultimately the best solution for the client.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that it sounds daft to say, but as an employee, perhaps you can't always do that because you've got other things to juggle, like in the political area and managing managers, etc. So
Hmm.
that you may not be able to deliver the best solution for your client, where I could as an external. It's easier to have those conversations of this is what you need to do, and you can have those conversations anywhere up the hierarchy without a problem. And this is why you need to do it, and it will give you X, Y, Z benefit. And I suggest you just do this, and things will be plain sailing going forwards for you.
Have you ever had to tell a client you didn't want to work with them? Not because you were too busy, but that they weren't a good fit?
I've never turned a client down for not wanting to work with them. I have had situations where it's been very difficult because you got this that your so clients often, especially in banking, they reorg frequently. I've never seen organizations that have organizational reorgs as frequently as an investment bank ever. They're yeah, very common. And sometimes you could end up having to your client basically changes. Your sort of your route into that client might change, and they may have a different view on how to approach something to what the previous sort of client manager
Right.
had, and that can get quite awkward sometimes. But well, it has done once. Never. I'm not going to name names, but that project, it was coming to an end from my side anyway. It was moving rapidly to BAU, and it did end shortly after the change of organization.
Right.
But yeah, it was coming to a natural end, whatever, and I didn't see eye to eye with the new person who wanted to have a huge empire of people. My approach is more to have as few people as possible managing sort of your Tableau infrastructure and Tableau output. Those two viewpoints couldn't meet in the middle,
Right.
and yeah, it was time for that project to end for me. But it was basically BAU anyway, so the
Yeah.
timing worked out well.
Yeah.
I did
And
stay on delivering different projects in that organization, so it wasn't like a you're fired. It was just this project is done. Let's
right.
move on to a
Contracts run
different
out.
one in a different part of the organization.
Right. And what are on the flip side of that? What's been the biggest benefit? It sounds like is freedom, right? You get to pick and choose your clients. You get to pick and choose when you work, those sorts of things. A lot of freedom with the family, especially with a new child coming on board on the team. And then what are the biggest challenges then, as a running for running your own business?
Biggest challenges are it's always winning business. Always,
Yeah.
always. You'll have exactly the same. Your biggest challenge is how do you get more customers
Yeah. Yeah.
for any business? Actually, that's
Yeah.
your
If you
number
don't have
one challenge.
customers, you don't survive, right?
Precisely. Yeah,
Yeah.
precisely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the number one challenge. Once you in and you have your customers, then yeah, things are not always easy, but it gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
You can rapidly work out what you need to deliver and the best way to deliver that, and then try and align everybody behind that vision to be able to deliver that.
Yeah.
Getting in is the hard part. Selling is a completely different skill to delivery.
Yeah.
Completely different.
So how do you know who your or who is your ideal client, and how did you come about identifying that?
I like if we're talking Tableau projects,
Whatever.
I prefer sort of greenfield or brownfield, if that term exists. So a project that's ideally in its infancy, or
Mhm.
someone has had a very good go at it before and it hasn't worked for whatever reason. Those projects, the more difficult clients, more complex organizations, they're my preferred, and a lot of people struggle with those. I like them personally. Um, there's a lot of complex moving parts you've got to juggle, and there's a lot of different people and processes you've got to understand. And yeah, they're interesting. There's a lot going on and a lot to keep on top of, and it
Mhm.
keeps personally keeps me engaged.
Yeah. And then as far as kind of growing the business, so you talked about sales and how, you have to continue to, it's that ever evolving process as a business owner. Um, how do you kind of know when a lot of people just continue to chase the money, right? They try to build, build, build. How do you know when you have enough?
Enough work or enough money?
Enough money that you've got enough in your life that you don't need to keep pursuing more and more and more.
That's a brilliant question, isn't it? It's when are you ready to retire
Yeah.
effectively? Yeah.
Not necessarily. You don't have to
Yeah.
retire when you have enough, right?
No, you don't. You can just slow down, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question. As I guess for every individual, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
For me personally, I had twins 2.5 years ago on top of the children we already spoke about,
Yeah.
and that's going to keep me working for quite a
The
while.
foreseeable future.
I don't know how long. Yeah, I don't want to think about it. Longer than I expected. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So ultimately, it comes down to what do you want to provide to your family, and
Right.
what does it require to deliver that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a constantly moving target. And yeah, I don't know. I suspect that I won't be retired in the next 5 years, fortunately.
Yeah. How much older is your oldest child than your twins?
There's a 8 year gap.
8 year?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Because my
yeah,
my twins are 20 months younger than their older brother, so it was like having triplets.
yeah.
It was
I
it was very difficult, but all three are coming off the payroll this year, so that's
oh,
good.
nice.
Yeah,
I,
graduated.
honestly, I don't know how you managed to survive that. I guess a lot of the viewers of this won't have twins and have no idea how
Yeah,
hard it is. No
it's
idea.
way more than taking care of two kids.
Yeah, yeah, it's exponentially more difficult. So
Yeah,
one twins are the same as having 4 kids, basically, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
most
yeah.
people
Well,
won't
you go
understand that.
from I like to tell people you go from a zone defense with one to a man to man. And then if you have an older child, so then you're outnumbered, right? Then it's just trying to corral them. You need like a border collie to help keep them circled in, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's madness. It's honestly
yeah,
madness. I don't know how you managed to do it with you would have effectively had 3 toddlers at the same time, and
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And then we had another one 6 years later. So and then I've had another one 15 years later. So it's I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. Um,
yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, let's get off the family topic because we'll get really depressed about how difficult it is, or excited, I guess. So let's go back to sales. If you have 2 minutes, let's say you have 2 minutes to pitch to a client, what do you tell them?
It's a great question. It depends on what they want. So I'm not a great sales guy, by the way. So there are it's a profession, isn't it? It's a
You
profession.
you must be because you're doing okay,
I'm an exceptional delivery guy.
right?
So
But you can sell your delivery,
exactly. So not want to blow my own trumpet. I've never met anyone who's good at delivery as I am
right?
in
Okay.
the Tableau space,
Yeah.
especially the complex projects I tend to jump on. Sales, I've met thousands, tens of thousands of people better than I am at sales. So luckily, the good thing about consulting, it's the reputation business. It is a reputation business,
Yeah.
and the work that I land is almost always with somebody else I've worked with in the past who's moved on
Okay.
to a different organization or a different
Right.
team, and and know that they need some expertise in to fix it, and are happy to pay for me to fix it, knowing that I will fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the other things that we talked about this before we went live, but one of the things you've been doing more lately is being active on LinkedIn. Why there? Why on LinkedIn
It's
versus
well,
another platform?
it's the only social media that I have anything to do with to start with.
That's a
I,
good reason. Yeah.
yeah, I haven't logged into Facebook for about 10 years,
Yeah.
um, and it's not really relevant for the Tableau world. And
No.
as I said to you, I have to travel up and down to London periodically now. I hadn't done that until this year, till January. I hadn't been to London for a few years until January. and you've got 3 hours on the train. So I thought I'll start to engage with LinkedIn and just see what happens.
See what happens. Yeah.
Just an experiment, really. Wasn't trying to achieve anything from it. I've got nothing to sell on there specifically, or
Yeah.
no sort of underhand motivation for doing it. I was just curious what would happen. So I
Yeah.
started posting on there just for fun, and yeah, got a good bit of engagement from people, and so I kept it up. I had last week off. Last week my house was a hospital ward. It was horrible. There was massive sickness going around the house. I was washing bed sheets literally every day. Um, yeah, there's a tummy bug going around my area. So that last week I had a week off doing anything LinkedIn and anything that wasn't related to just keeping everybody in the house
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but now everyone seems well again. So this week perhaps I'll start posting and see if I get some time to churn out a bunch of content. I can never reach your level of LinkedIn posting. That's
Well, there's a reason for that. So
yeah.
I'm part of a coaching group, and one of the they have these things called 5 daily non-negotiables, and one of them is posting 3 times a day on social media. So a lot of the people in the group are on Instagram, so they just record a quick video and post it as a story or something like that. Where with what you and I do, Instagram doesn't make sense, Facebook doesn't make sense, TikTok doesn't make sense. LinkedIn is the place to. It used to be Twitter, but I hate Twitter. You get a lot of trolls on there, and so I decided, like when I started this coaching program, I decided, you know what, as of now, I'm just going to move to LinkedIn. So that's why you see so much now. So I do almost 3 a day. Most days it's 3. So that'll be. I'm coming up on. So it's been 250 days now in a row of doing 3 a day. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's hard, but
It is.
yeah. But I think you probably don't realize that you know, your post. What I really like about your posts is they're really easy to understand. They're really practical. You can apply what you do right away. You generate good discussions, and you're inadvertently selling yourself through that, right? Or not inadvertent. You're indirectly selling yourself through that because you've got this kind of repository of things that you're probably learning a lot from as well. And it seems like you write pretty much one thing a day. Is that generally about right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It would normally be a post a day unless I make an error. I don't write them all on the same day. Just
Right. Yeah, I
yeah,
schedule a lot as
I
well.
guess you don't. I'll maybe churn out a week's worth in one hit
Right.
and just schedule them to go. So I don't have a lot of time. Like I've got the twins plus other kids plus a
Yeah.
job and plus a wife telling me to do various things around the house, and
Right. Right.
time is something I don't have much of. Uh,
Yeah.
like we've been trying to have this conversation for a little while and just haven't
Keeps
been able
getting.
to do it.
Yeah.
Something always gets in the way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very tough. So I do try and do one a day, and just but I do write them in one hit, perhaps on the train. Usually, if I'm in London or if I'm in a hotel in
Yeah.
London, then again just do it there and churn them out, schedule them, and
Move
yeah,
on.
that yeah, basically yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but once you get into that flow of writing the post, it goes pretty quickly. Do you have any do you have any how do you come about with your ideas for content?
Often what I'm working on at the time,
Mhm.
or maybe I'll read somebody else's post or somebody else's comments, and just have some inspiration from that. Really, it's
Mhm.
I don't have a huge thought process into creating content. I find it hard. It is really hard. Like that's how I've got massive respect for what you do with your 3 posts a day, because it's really hard to think about that much content and
Yeah, yeah. Well,
to keep it
I
interesting as well. You know, it's
yeah,
tough.
I've got 10 years of blogs I can rewrite. So,
Yeah,
there's 1,000 over probably about 1,200 blog posts that I could just repurpose. So that's one of the, and then, if you have a post that does really well, bring it up again in 2 months, something like that, just reword it or something. Because there's going to be people that haven't seen it before. Um, So one of the things then that you and I are both getting from LinkedIn is, that sense of being engaged with the community. And the Tableau community has changed over the years. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen?
The so it's a really good question. I used to engage quite a lot with the Tableau forums. So
Hmm.
back in the day, they were a great place to learn, like a really
Hmm.
good place to learn Tableau. Um, they used to have what they used to game this. They used to gamify their forums, and they probably
Yeah.
still do. Shows that I don't really engage with it anymore. Um, uh, so I don't even know the words. I managed to become the top level of your forum
Yeah.
participants, as it was at the time. But then sales when the Salesforce purchase of Tableau happened, they moved the Tableau forums over to the Salesforce platform, and
Yeah.
it was significantly worse.
Yeah.
It's so much worse than what it used to be, unfortunately, because the engagement used to be great in the Tableau forums. Um, I used to use them, like I said, fairly often.
Hmm.
I could sort of dip in for 10 minutes, answer a question or two, and then jump back out again and not
Yeah.
think about it for a few days or whatever. And then, so I used to be fairly active in that. Um, and the biggest change in the community is how the forum, which was the go-to place for anything Tableau related, the I'd love to see the stats. I know Tableau will never share the stats, or Salesforce will never share the stats. I'd love to know what the stats are like of how often the forums are used now versus
Yeah.
if you go back 5 years or so.
Yeah.
It used to
Yeah.
be you post a question on there, or someone posts a question on there, and more or less within a few minutes, someone had either taken a stab at answering it or had answered it.
Right.
The engagement was massive. Where now I put a question on there on the forums. I can't remember what it was about now. Just a few weeks ago, and I don't think I got any response. Now the questions
Mm.
I ask are not simple questions, because
But
obviously anything
still.
simple
Yeah.
I can cover. It's but still is like nothing back. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's totally different to how it would have been a few
Yeah.
years ago. I don't even know where people would turn to if they had Tableau questions,
Mm.
technical questions, how to get answered nowadays. It's
Yeah, and that used to be the best way to learn as well, was to jump into form, because there wasn't any training whatsoever. You had to be self-taught. Yeah. So that's how you learn. That's how I learned, through the forums. You just find new problems to solve. If you were new now, how would you go about learning?
that's basically what I touched on. I don't know. There are many different online trainings available. Like you obviously have your courses, and there are many other. And you've got, I don't know how many videos you've got on YouTube now. It,
Yeah,
it, it must be a lot. It must be in the
yeah,
hundreds,
a couple
if
hundred.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, so you can learn an awful lot out there for free. Loads of it,
yeah,
loads of content. Um, the reality is, though, well, for me personally, I know different people learn in different ways. I learn by doing.
yeah.
So you have a problem that you're trying to solve, and ask Google and see what crops up.
Mm,
Um, I used to do a little bit of work on Tableau Public. I'm
mhm.
not a massive user of it, purely because I'm not one of these people who can sit in the house and open a data set and have great fun building a dashboard of
Right.
some random data. I'm not that interested. I just don't. I've never been able to do that. Even when I
Yeah.
had more time, I was never inclined to do that and to produce these masterpieces like some people do. But yeah, I think Tableau Public's a great resource for anyone who
Mhm.
wants to get better. I think there's a lot out there that is sort of social media clickbait, so it
Yeah.
never work in the real world. I don't know. I'm talking about my LinkedIn postings. I think if I'm talking about the visuals, all I talk about is tables and bar charts, because
Yeah.
frankly,
Bars, lines,
that's
and tables. Yeah.
that's basically all I do. Yeah, if you can if you can master bars, lines, and tables, and when to use them, you're basically there.
Yeah.
It's the when to use them is the bit that is harder to train and harder to teach. I think you can teach the technical aspect of Tableau fairly simply.
Hmm. Hmm.
The softer piece is harder.
Yeah, because I hear from people that as I'm trying to recruit people into my membership program, a lot of them talk about how oh, I want to be able to create visit the days, and I try to encourage them that that shouldn't be your goal, because those aren't going to help your career. Like you said, it's clickbait. It might get you a visit the day, but just because you have visit the day doesn't mean you can actually do the job. Where I don't build stuff like that because I don't know how to. And I might use an occasional makeover Monday to learn a chart type or something like that, but it would never be something I would use again. So almost everything I do is very basic. Try to make things very easy to understand. Do you think that's a common mistake that newcomers make? Is they try to do fancy instead of learning the fundamentals?
Not for sure. But they see it all over social media. If you look on social media, no one's going to share something I've done on Tableau Public on social media. Who wants to look at a boring line chart or a boring bar chart? You know,
A lot of people
it's
do
just,
actually. Yeah.
well, it may be useful for them, but it's not something you look at and go, "Oh, that's pretty."
Yeah.
It's just it's a bar chart. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, this social media is naturally clickbaity because
Yeah.
and you've got to if you want people to look at your post, it's got to be something that drags their attention in. And
Mm.
it's like again, so I talk about periodically on LinkedIn maps.
Hmm.
If you're going to do a demo of Tableau, you're going to include a map.
Yeah.
So even though I've used them once ever in the real world, ever,
It's a great feature to demo because it's
it's a great
instantaneous.
feature demo. I always would do a demo with a map. Yeah, just because
Yeah.
it's like it just grabs the attention immediately.
Yeah. And
It's like,
everybody
wow, a
understands
map.
them, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's completely pointless for almost every single use case you can think of,
Yeah.
bar very few exceptions. But it looks great, and
Yeah.
hence every newcomer to Tableau builds something with a map.
Sure. Yeah.
Even at Barclays now, this I can't remember the use case, but somebody built a map for investment, somebody to do with investment banking, and I did nothing. It was pointless. But they were just
Yeah.
new to Tableau. I thought I need to build a map because they look cool,
Yeah.
and uh,
Yeah.
and, and they do. So anything social media-y, it has to draw attention. So it
Yeah. Yeah.
has to be well designed and sort of infographic-y,
Hmm.
not necessarily corporate dashboard. Corporate
Yeah.
dashboard is. I know there wasn't long ago there was I can't remember who did it. There was a bit of a push to try and show like real world dashboards
Yeah.
in
It's
Tableau. I don't know
real
if that
world fake data.
yeah, I don't know if that push still exists,
It
but
does. Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah,
it's not, I don't think there's a regular cadence to it like there is for, Workout Wednesday or Makeover Monday, something like that.
yeah,
Because that's how I use Tableau Public, right? If I need inspiration, I go to Tableau Public and I'll search up finance dashboard and kind of see what comes back. Or, like you said, Tableau Public's a great repository for that. And when I post visualizations on from other people on LinkedIn, it's always something I try to do that's going to be useful for people to then implement in the business setting, right? And you might have the map in there occasionally, but it's going to be bars and lines pretty much. That's all you're going to see. Maybe a scatter plot occasionally, or something like that. But I want people to learn that this is the stuff you really need to master. If you can do this stuff, then you'll be able to do the other stuff because you're gonna have to learn all the calculations and those sorts of things along the way. Plus, you have to be like really, really good at math to do a lot of those things in trigonometry and while it is cool to show that you can do that, and I guess part of the trouble also is that employers love seeing that on somebody's Tableau Public profile. They love seeing that kind of creative stuff, but it doesn't mean they can do the job. And employers don't realize that. And then the people get in the jobs and they struggle. So yeah, I'm fighting that battle right along with you. So
it's interesting. I don't know if I don't know which. It depends on the employer, doesn't it? How interested they would be in. I've seen job adverts saying would like to see your Tableau Public profile. But your anyone, I suppose anyone could have a good Tableau Public profile. You could just lift something from somebody else's profile and put on yours.
Yeah.
So
Happens a lot.
I'm sure people do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So like you say, it doesn't really teach too much. When I interview Tableau people, personally, I pay no attention to their Tableau public profile.
Right.
I give them a test. I have a very simple dashboard, like a 4 component dashboard in your
Right.
owners, and just say, there you go. You got 30 minutes, build it,
Yeah.
and just see what comes back.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to
That
do the same thing when I worked at Facebook. I had a test that I would give them because the people that we brought in had to be advanced users. So I gave them an advanced test because, their profile, they would go through recruiting and they would say all the right things, and they would, maybe have a decent Tableau public profile. And then you come in and give them this test of stuff that if they know Tableau as well as they say they do, they should finish in 5 minutes or, maybe 20 minutes, whatever it might be, but they would just sit there and not know what to do. So instantly I'd be like, well, this person is not going to help me. Right. And so we ended up changing the recruiting process so that I was always the first interview, because there's no sense in anybody else interviewing somebody if we know they can't do the job. So I could just kill the interviews right there and give everybody an hour back. So yeah, but I do look at Tableau public profiles because I want to see a progression in somebody's work. And I get very suspicious when all I see is really good, really fancy things. Because, like, for example, my visual vocabulary, there's hundreds of versions of that people just put back up on their profile. And how somebody's supposed to know that they didn't create that? Because nobody gives attribution. A lot of people do it. They don't do it maliciously. They do it because they think that's the way they can save it for later. Um, you know, but yeah, I mean, if I see a progression in somebody's work, I tend to believe that everything they created on there is probably theirs. And it shows me that they're a learner as well. And they can, they've built up this process for learning, whatever their process might be. So, yeah. So let's wrap it up there. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I think
Okay.
LinkedIn is it's going to be the easiest way.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you very much. And I appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Andy. Appreciate
All
it.
right. All right. Bye.